Mark Sebby here with the Way Beyond the Music podcast, and I'm super excited to bring this series to you guys as we dive way beyond the music with exclusive artist interviews, industry professional interviews, tips, tricks, educational, teaching. We're going to pick a topic for each one of these episodes that'll air Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to dive into it, dissect it. We're going to get artist input, industry professional input. Man, if you are a Texas music lover, this show is for you. So make sure you tune in, share it, tell your friends, and subscribe. Help us spread the word, and stay tuned on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for Way Beyond the Music podcast. You guys are going to absolutely love this.
On behalf of the flight crew, thank you for flying with us and have a pleasant stay.
Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome to Way Beyond the Music podcast, season 1, episode 2. And hey, if you'll notice right there, a nice little border around the video. Well, it is our Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, yeah, it is our Christmas edition. We're going to do 2 weeks of this leading up to the Jolly Man's Day, as it were. The turkey got to have his day. Hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for those that caught last week's episode with Mr. Chuck Weimer. But what's super cool is that we have a new guest every week. And this week, yeah, you're going to love this. This week, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Randy Seymour. Randy, how are you, buddy?
All right. I don't know how many of those expletives that we need, but okay.
Well, you know, it's always fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great to be here tonight. Thanks for inviting me on, Mark. It's good to be on a show where we can just kind of like express and explore things that, I'm here tonight to try to at least impart a little bit of stuff that I've learned over the past, 20 or 30 years of just kind of knocking around and having to learn it slowly. Maybe a little bit of more of a quick study tonight for some people, just a few things here and there. So, but it's great to be able to do that. Great to be able to share. And obviously fun to be with you, man. Mr. Texas Internet Radio King.
I don't know about all that, but it's always a good time. Tonight we've got a really special topic that you actually wanted to teach on, and I'm going to let you go ahead and tell everybody what we're going to be talking about on the episode.
Well, what we're going to talk about tonight, what we're going to explore is how your original songs, your original material, or what we term in the industry is intellectual property. Now, that word property is real important because it is yours. And you have to do the things not only to own it on the front end, but you need to own it on the back end as well and all the way through the middle. So that has a lot to do with not only how you arrange it, perform it, and present it, but also how you do all the mechanics of signing up on all the right things and lining up all the little things that basically will protect your material from being plagiarized. Although today I always say that nothing is really original anymore. Everything is sort of a shadow of everything else. So, but what you really want to do is you really want it to basically always retain your name and make sure that follows it around, no matter what happens, because that's very important. It's very important that your name actually become a valuable commodity. In today's entertainment world, people's names are known as their brand a lot of times now, and that's a fairly recent revelation. Although brands were prevalent all along in the entertainment industry, there weren't many people that were concentrating on their brand. Some people just became these legendary brands because of who they are and what they did. People like, I'm talking about entertainment icons like Steve McQueen and Marilyn Monroe and James Dean and so forth, and the list goes on. They weren't necessarily pursuing a brand during their career, but now it's a conscious effort by artists and by entertainers to pursue a brand. So part of that brand is protecting that brand, just like your songs. Those are part of your brand. Those are part of what you do, but they're not all of what you do. But they're an important part, and you never know what role they're going to play. So you should always make sure that you can put your hands on them and make sure they don't get away from you if you can help it. So I've done both. I've let some of them get away from me, and I've gotten to where I can put my hands on a lot of them. So and there are ways too that I found out recently in the last couple of years where you can actually, if you've signed away your publishing, for instance, and we'll talk a little bit about what publishing actually means, you can get it back. You can actually get it back. It takes a while, but you can fill out the paperwork and you can actually get 100% of your song publishing back to its original owner, which is
Merry Christmas right there, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You know a lot more about this, honestly, than I do. I know you do. And I'm glad that you picked the topic too, because I always like to bring people on. You always learn something. It doesn't matter if you're a host, if you think you're a master, you're going to get taught a lesson. I've learned that growing up, you know?
Sure. Well, it can all be very confusing, because sometimes it all sounds like double talk, because it's sort of written in legal terms, or it's written in terms that it's almost like when people start talking about computers to me, and then they start talking, in computer type language relating to things that computers do. They lose me. I go, listen, you got to bring this down to the ground. Tell me exactly what this term means and what it means to me, not what it means to you. I know what it means to you, but I don't know the definition. So anytime that you're dealing, and here's tip number one for you. If you're out there and you're getting your song published, or you're getting it recorded, or you're getting it listened to, or you're considering anything with it, and you don't understand the terminology, do not sit there and act like you know what's going on. That is not the time to play it cool and walk backstage like you belong there. That's the time to go, I don't understand the terminology. Can you clarify this for me? What does it mean when somebody says something like publishing? Do you have publishing administration? You need to stop them, and if you don't understand it, and you say, what does publishing administration mean? What does it encompass? Publishing administration at its core, I will explain to you. The simple term is a publishing administrator, a person who works on your behalf, basically collects your song royalties from what is sold, not from what is performed on television, what is sold as streaming, as hard product, as anything that is an actual commodity, a commercial viable piece, something that you can grasp. And streaming and downloading is part of that. Okay. Even though you can't, a lot of times you don't actually grasp it, you do actually have the product when you buy it. Okay. So that's publishing administration in the nutshell, is that anyone who has written songs and has them published, or basically has them registered, if things get to where somebody has actually recorded this song, or you've put it out yourself, and you're going to put it out, and it's going to be on streaming services, and it's going to get downloaded, and things are going to happen for it, it's probably a good idea to sign up with a publishing administrator if you don't have your own publishing company that's run by a big company like Sony, who does all these things for you. They do your publishing administration for you. Of course, all of this stuff is done for a fee, but if you handle your own, because let's say, okay, for instance, let's say you co-wrote a song with a big songwriter who does work for Sony Publishing, but they're not going to do your publishing and administration. You go out and find your own independent publishing administrator. They collect the royalties for you, and you're probably going to end up making more money than the guy who's working for Sony. He's going to have a deal, and he's going to be getting a draw to write songs every month. But at the end of the day, you're going to own more of your material, and you'll have more control of it. If anybody has any questions about publishing administration, there's a great company that I actually use. I used it on. I signed up when my song got recorded by Ronnie Millsap and Vince Gill last year. It's called Song Trust is the name of it. In fact, every publishing administrator that I knew of that I talked to, they said, well, we're not taking on any more new clients, but you need to go to Song Trust because that's what they do, which is really, really great for us. Okay. Really great for us. Listen to me. It's great for us that you don't have to, beg somebody to take the time to do this type of, perform this type of service for you. There's a company that will do it for you. Minimal fee, all fair, all up front. And they basically are very smart and savvy in the business. And they can actually answer a lot of questions for you too, that you may have, which are like me. I had a lot of questions about it too. How does this work? How does that work? They can get on the phone and they can actually talk to you. They will actually talk to you on the phone about it. It's not just an FAQ thing on a website. So that's a cool thing. So let's start from the beginning of your song. Anybody who's a songwriter, and you don't necessarily have to be an artist to be a songwriter. It may help, it may not. It really depends on what you're pursuing and what it is that inspires you to do this and why you want to do this. If you're simply a songwriter and you want to create songs and create copyrights and memories and stories and things like that, it's pretty simple. Your first step, usually, in creating a work, is to go ahead and find a PRO. That's a performance rights organization who you would like to represent your material. Now, a performance rights organization. Performance rights are only those rights of songs that are performed on television. There are things when a song goes up the charts, and that's a performance. That's not a mechanical royalty. That's a performance royalty. When your song gets played in a television commercial, when it gets in a film, that has to do with sync licensing. But if somebody's performing that song, that also has to do with a performance thing. So they kind of come in and they gather those sort of royalties. That's one of their main things. But the other thing great about them is they've all been in the industry for years. They all have tons of money. They got great staffs of people, and they have a lot of people who are ready to help new songwriters, and they'll put you with somebody. They'll say, okay, well, this is your representative. They're going to help you. If you got any questions, call them up, whatever. That's their job. They're getting paid full time to do exactly what I just told you. When you sign up with a PRO, one of the good things about signing up with one is they help you establish your publishing entity. Now listen up. As a songwriter, there are two main pieces to your intellectual property. You own them both if you own your own publishing, which you normally do if you haven't sought out anything else. You own all of it, okay? But once you decide to make this thing into something that's going to get released or registered, then you have to register its publishing side as well as its creative written side. So it's almost like if you have your own publishing company, then you're working for yourself. Boom, you're self-employed. Same kind of thing, no big deal. But what they'll do is they'll help you find that name that you want to do for your publishing company. So listen up. Here's another tip, kids. Give these names, because you're going to have to throw several names at them before one is actually going to stick, because they throw them against a huge wall of names that are already out there and whatever and so forth and such. Pick names that you're going to want to stick with for the rest of your life, because you're going to be stuck with that. Okay, so pick one.
I had a buddy make that mistake. Yeah, with his when he started his own publishing company, he named it something he did not want to stick with.
Yeah,
so that is a good tip there. But on the not to jump off topic, but on the level of cost, like the biggest question I get is, number one, how do I start this thing? What do I need to do? And then number two is, what's it going to cost me to start my own publishing company?
Well, BMI.
All myself.
Okay.
If I learn this and do it all myself.
Right. The PROs, they all work differently. BMI, I know, charges a fee. You're going to get away with probably paying them. Now, don't quote me on this because I haven't seen the fees lately, but you're going to get away with basically registering as a writer for free. But as a publishing company, when you register your publishing, they're going to charge you like, I think maybe $75 or something. You're in. All they're really charging you for is the registration of the name and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of it's basically you're paying them to do a little bit of work and nail down the name of your publishing company and also establish it with an ID number, because everything has an ID number. You're as a songwriter, you have an ID number, and your publishing company has an ID number too. They're both separate numbers. So whenever you actually sit down and register one of your songs, you're going to fill all of that information in. The ID number of you, the ID number of your publisher, and so forth and such. I don't know what ASCAP charges for that. I'm with CSAC. They don't charge anything for you to set up publishing, but CSAC is set up a little differently than ASCAP and BMI. ASCAP and BMI are subsidized companies, which will basically never run out of money. And they don't run on the same principle that CSAC is run on. CSAC is run on a corporate principle, which means they have a board of directors, they have stockholders and everything else. When you sign with CSAC, you're actually signing with a company, not with just a performance rights organization that does things on your behalf. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different.
It is confusing. So, I mean, if you're a new musician, all of this, you're probably like, do what? What do I got to, oh my God, I got to do all of that. Listen.
Well, the best thing anyone can do is they can sit down and mostly, I will tell you what most songwriters do is they'll instantaneously, and there's nothing wrong with this, they'll instantaneously register with the performance rights organization that their favorite singer or songwriter is with. If your favorite songwriter was with BMI, then you're gonna, I want to be with BMI like my hero, Bob whatever or something, you know what I'm saying? Bob McDill, or I want to be with ASCAP, because Hank Williams or something was ASCAP or something. I mean, that's primarily kind of how it works. There's no right or wrong, is what I'm saying. They all kind of operate differently as far as like how they collect royalties and how they tabulate those things and stuff like that. You don't even need to know the ins and outs of that. That doesn't matter, because success is success, and that's all that matters. And when you become successful and, a song of yours is getting played wildly, thousands and thousands and thousands of times, it doesn't really matter what one of these entities you're with, you're going to make money. Okay. Bottom line, you're going to make money. There are ways to kind of track it, but really the bottom line is, you're in it for the long haul, and you're in. And once you're with a PRO, it's just great to stick with them. If you have to switch, or if you want to switch, it can be a pain. You can do it, but it can be a pain. So
I don't recommend a switch. Everyone I've talked to has been that's successful in this. Just stick it out, man. You picked it, so
you may as well just go have a couple of root canals done. That's much more fun. So.
Amen. But just to let the listeners and watchers and know, if you want to, leave a comment. If you have a question, real quick, I am checking the comments. If you see me looking down during the broadcast, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Just to make sure that, if anybody needs to get a quick answer, if we have time, we'll cover it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And help them out in that facility if we can. Now, if we don't know, we're just going to tell you we don't know, because we don't want to give you the wrong information necessarily.
No.
That's not going to help you move forward with what you need to do. So,
but back to our topic of owning it, the two things that you can work with on the immediate front end is your PRO, forming your publishing company, registering your material through that entity, because that's where you basically register your material through, and also filing and getting your copyrights from the Library of Congress, which is also another process that you need to go ahead and go through. And everybody knows, but if you don't know, the PA form, which is a short form for registering songs with the Library of Congress, is the shortest and the cheapest route. You can actually do it online now. You can open up an account with the Library of Congress, the Office of Copyright, and you can do all of your copyright stuff online. You can fill it all out. You can submit an MP3 if you have an MP3 of it, and they'll charge you a fee, on your credit card or whatever form of payment that you do. So they've made that easier, and it took them a while to get there because anything that the government does is always sort of antiquated, but they've kind of brought it up to date. So I've done that several times, and it's worked out really well because once I get it done, then a month or so later, all of a sudden in my mailbox shows up my official printed copyright, and I go, wow, this is neat. It's really cool looking. So, and I think the fee differs for you actually filling it out and sending it in as to doing it online. And I think for some reason, the online one is actually more expensive. I think it's differs maybe $10. I once again, don't nail me down on fees. I can remember registering through the mail with the Copyright Office in a PA form for as low as $35. And I think the last time that I did one online, I'm thinking it was like $48 a song, something like that. Now, sometimes here's something else you can do to sort of kind of just skirt around that for a while until you're really ready just to nail something down. You don't have to copyright, just each song at a time. You can copyright a whole group of songs because all you're really copywriting is the title, and your name and your information and stuff like that. That's all you're really putting a copyright on, because nobody's sending in what we used to have to do with copyrights was, and I'm sure you still have to do it at some point. What we used to have to do was you had to submit what was called a lead sheet. That was a written piece of manuscript with your song on it, and I always had to hire the guy who was the high school band director to do mine when I was going to high school, because I couldn't write manuscript, but he was happy to do it. I could pay him, $20 a manuscript, and man, he would just crank them out, So, but you don't have to do that, but you can register a group of songs. Okay. And that's much cheaper. It's about the same as registering each song, so that would be a good shortcut for somebody on the front end. And of course, if you do something with the song, then just circle back around and actually register the copyright itself. It's not going to matter if it's registered in a group or not, because let's face it, if it's all in your name, are you going to take yourself to court? No, you're not. So you're good to go. Okay. Now, here's the reason why you need to have all these things in a row. And a lot of times when you walk into a publisher or something like that, they're going to go, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. That's bull. Any reputable publisher is going to go fine, because if you're going to share material with them, if you're going to sign publishing to them, anything, whatever, it doesn't matter if it's in your name. Okay. What matters is if it's not in your name and you walk into a place that is going to tell you what they think that you want to hear, and then you end up, in a couple of years going, well, I didn't get anything for this. What happened? So you need to have that ownership and your name attached to your material when you walk in the door, when you have a meeting with a publisher and you're going to play songs for them. It's not necessary, but it's a good idea, because who knows what happens if the publisher he listens through to your songs and he gets really turned on by one of your tunes and says, I've got an artist I want to pitch this to. Well, then you can look at him and go, well, you can pitch it to him. It's protected. Everything's good, and they're good with it. It's kind of a handshake agreement. And they're your only connection to that artist anyway. So once they pitch a song to an artist and they've done it, then it won't get done, because the artist and the producer will know it. It won't get done until you make a deal with the publisher, because they're going to go, well, if they go back and they go, well, we thought your publishing was on this. So no, there's no deals that ever kind of go sour on that kind of thing. So always have as much of your material in your hip pocket, ownership wise, as you can. Real simple stuff. PRO, publishing company, you as a writer, register it, boom, it's in there. If you make a tape of it or whatever, and you want to make an MP3 of it, do it. The more stuff you have in there that represents your song, the better off you are. There was a law that came out in 1978 that said once you pen something, you own it. That's true. Okay. Nobody can actually just take something from you as long as you can just, even beyond a minimal shadow of a doubt, prove that you're the one who wrote it. So that's a real important thing. One thing that writers don't really get caught up in sometimes, but sometimes they do if there's a lot of money that happens online, which is called plagiarism. Now, plagiarism is something that somebody can go after when you've written a song and there's 8 bars of this song that sound very similar to a song that's already out there, registered, and is active. They can come back and say, well, you've plagiarized this. There's 2 ways that you can avoid this. One is you can just change the melody a little bit here and there. That's not a problem. You can't really plagiarize words a whole lot. Titles and ideas and stuff like that, those can be plagiarized. But even John Lennon said he would steal lines from Chuck Berry and different writers in order to stick them into songs.
Right.
So a lot of that kind of stuff goes on anyway. So plagiarism is not something that you even need to be worried about, because if you get to the level of having your song recorded by someone, they're going to be the ones who are going to be the first ones to probably try to watchdog plagiarism. I'll tell you one of the biggest things about plagiarism that happened in the last 20-something years or so, and the reason why I know this is because I know the guy who's the publisher. His name is David Briggs. He's a music publisher, and he's also a session keyboardist in Nashville. He owned the publishing for Steve Winwood. And Steve Winwood released this album in 1989, and it had a song on it called Roll With It, which is a huge hit song. Roll with it, baby. Da-da, you got to roll with it, baby. So the whole song was on the radio, huge hit, massive numbers coming out, and then all of a sudden they get hit with a plagiarized suit that they actually lost, because the people who own the copyright and the song to a song called Shotgun, by they won the suit. So what did Steve Winwood have to do? He had to turn around. He had to hand basically half of all of his royalties over to these guys that he made. He still made a bunch of money, but he only made half the bunch of money that he was supposed to get. So sometimes that kind of stuff happens, but not real often. There are people who actually specialize in this. I had a friend who worked for a copyright lawyer their job was they would get sent songs from all these different publishers and record labels and all these different people. And they had to sit down and they had to figure out if any of these songs were actually songs that had plagiarized other songs. And it was really strange when I would talk to him. I'd go, well, how far do you have to go? He said, he says, it depends on how badly they want to sue somebody for it. I said, wow. So there's all kind of games that go on there. Don't worry about that stuff though. Just get your PRO, get your publishing and your songwriting, get yourself registered, get yourself plugged into the system, write your songs, register them, and do everything you can to play them for people. As long as you got them in your hip pocket, it's not going to matter who you play them for.
Well, I hope everybody is taking notes. And on that note, we're gonna take a break from the educational side of things for a minute here, because this young man actually plugged up, brought his guitar, and wants to, I think, play a tune or two. Right? Correct?
Sure, man. Sure.
I'll let you do whatever you want to do on that, man. This is your show. I appreciate you. Let me get that background music killed there. Yeah. Appreciate you doing a live performance too on the podcast, man.
Well, since you got your Santa Claus hat on, I've got to do a song about Santa Claus. Now, I have a Christmas album out, and this is on it. This is my single that's been playing on the radio in the last couple of weeks here on Texas radio and so forth, and internet radio here in Texas. This is my song that tells people that I do believe there's a Santa Claus, because all the things that I got for Christmas, there's no way my daddy was making that kind of money to buy all that stuff. So this is called There Ain't No Santa Claus. It goes like this. Yogi Bear, tricycle, 10-speed, bicycle, Batman, Army Men, motorific jungle gym, Operation Moon Station, Mr. Major, Mad Mason, Daisy, BB gun, mousetrap, battleship, barrel of buckets, and battling tops. And don't try telling me there ain't no Santa Claus. NFL, AFL, electric football, Lincoln Logs, Harlem, Globetrotters, basketball, Hot Wheels, Matchbox, brand new fishing rod, Honker Tucks, give me them, rock 'em, sock 'em, robots, Sears mini bike, and Seagull watch. How can you be telling me there ain't no Santa Claus? They say Elvis is alive and living in Kauai. The pyramids are made by the power of the mind. Neil Armstrong went walking on the moon, courtesy of Kubrick in 2001. Macy's, Kmart, Sears, and Roebuck, Western Auto, and Toys R Us, Galleria, Gulfgate, Northline, Mile, and North Pole. Money can't gonna visit Santa Man, working every corner at the shopping mall. Still, you keep on telling me there ain't no Santa Claus. All right. Well, I keep an open mind, cause I never know it all. You want me to believe there was life on Mars, but all I really know is he gave me this guitar, so I never will believe there ain't no Santa Claus. Up on the housetop, jolly old St. Nicholas, here comes Santa Claus the night before Christmas. The Polar Express, run Rudolph, run. Elvis says Santa Claus is coming back to town. He's got a mess of stories and popular songs, so don't you try to tell me that there ain't no Santa Claus. Oh, you never change my mind, cause you give me this guitar, so don't try telling me there ain't no Santa Claus. No. No.
I was checking that video, correct? Yeah, you got a video for that out too. I was checking that out earlier, and I was getting my giggle on. Man, that's a cool video.
Well, there's a lot in there. It's funny because as I was doing that, I was thinking, okay, I need to make sure that I do this where I don't get in trouble for using all of this material. But there's a way you can do anything as long as you have as long as you have the right source for it. So you always have to seek out your source when you're doing things like that, because if it goes on YouTube or if it goes on anywhere, they can always black out places. It's like, well, you don't have the right to use this, you don't have the right to use that. But it's a funny world, and that's why you got to own it. And if you own it, then at least there's no doubt about it when somebody says, well, you can't do that. And you just look at them and say, well, actually, yes, I can.
Yeah, I know YouTube Studio has some royalty-free stuff that you can use if you're looking out there, folks that are listening or watching or catching a rebroadcast of this.
Yep.
Checking it out on YouTube, whatever. You can do that definitely, and that's definitely beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's royalty-free things. You can pay a little bit for those things because people have a lot of that content stored in places. I use that sometimes. Sometimes I'll just find stuff that, for visually, sometimes I'll find something that just amateur people have done and they just stuck it out there and there's no copyright thing or anything on it. So it's just like I said, you gotta look for the source, just like anything else, to make sure that you're not infringing upon somebody else's business, so to speak. So, so when you do these songs and when you write these songs, just follow some simple steps and simple rules. Now, a lot of times, one of the things that I try to tell people who are singer-songwriters, which is a little bit different, it takes it one step further. You need to make the song your own when you're playing it. And that means if you can develop a style that you are comfortable with and is sort of a signature style, the way you sound, the way you play, whatever it is that you do, that really helps a lot, because in these instances where, and I've been in them a lot, where you're in a songwriter in the round and you've got 4 or 5 different people who are writing songs, or they're playing songs, they're singing. Well, if you can be a little different or do something just a little different and kind of make it fun, your material is going to stand out. Same thing happens when you go into a publishing company. If you can do something a little different that's going to catch their ear, do it. Take a few risks, take some chances. If you've done all your homework and you've taken your song and you've wrung it inside and out to where you're confident with it, then and you want to step out, do it. Take some chances, because a lot of times publishers and even record labels and all these people, sometimes even if it's good, they don't hear it yet. So don't ever be discouraged if you're doing something a little different, something that's you, and they just kind of cock their head or do something. That happened to Garth Brooks when he was pitched to Capitol Records. They didn't get it. They were like, well, we don't get this guy. We don't understand him. And then he wrote a song, If Tomorrow Never Comes, with a guy who was a fairly decent songwriter in Nashville. They heard it and they went, well, who's that? And said, well, that's Garth Brooks, the guy you passed on. They said, well, maybe we need to take another look at this guy. And then when they did, they had already sort of subconsciously convinced themselves that there was something there. So don't be discouraged if your style or if something's not hitting them like it should, because everybody who walks through the door has the same fear and the same trepidation and the same hopes that you do. And people at record labels and people at entertainment companies, they see it day in and day out, and they hear a lot of the same things day in and day out. If you can hit them with something a little different and something a little fresh, even if you don't score, you're going to leave an impression. And leaving an impression is almost as good as getting a paycheck. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah, I mean, well, and you don't. There's sometimes, I hate to say it, but and I've learned the hard way. You don't get a second chance.
You don't. No, you don't get a second chance. And a lot of times they'll say, well, when you have something else, you bring it back. Well, it's a lot harder to come back on that bring back than
it was hard to get there in the first place and get in front of them, right? Yeah,
exactly. So, and I've also learned too, and this is what I learned from a guy who's a very successful record producer, and I work with him quite a lot now and then. His name is Norbert Putnam. He produced most of Jimmy Buffett's hits, Margaritaville and Changes in Latitude and all those things. He produced most of Dan Fogelberg's albums. So he started out producing people like Joan Baez and things like that. So he's been in the music business for years. But he gave me a tip one time as a songwriter when I was wanting to pitch songs for another artist. He said, Randy, he says, if you'll just take, he said, I know you've got several songs that you want these people to hear for this person. He said, don't do it. He said, take up only at least 3 minutes of their time. That's it. Put the one on there that you feel the best about, even if you've got, well, I think they would do this well. He said, don't even let that creep into your thought. Eliminate everything but one song. Give them one song. Okay. Do that. He said, as a publisher, he said, I've had more success with writers of mine just submitting one song as a pitch instead of a group of songs or 2 or 3 songs. Like, well, if you don't like this, then maybe you'll like this. He said,
that's like shotgunning, man. That's exactly. That's like throwing noodles up against the wall and seeing which one's done is going to stick. You're blowing. You might ruin an impression you could have had on a different song at a different time.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You don't want to run them off because you want them to go, okay, well, that didn't hurt too much. Then you can come back. The door will kind of be open. If you hit them with 3 or 4 things, they may go, okay, we kind of heard all this guy or the gal can do for us, so we're done here.
Right.
So that's to me, that was a real good tip. And that's kind of what I've always followed since he actually told me that, because I was just as guilty of anybody as putting a tape or a compact disc with 2 or 3 songs on it, thinking, well, I really want to get something recorded by this guy. So let me put at least 3 on here that I know would be great for him. It's like, you don't know what would be great for him. That's the funny thing. You know, you really don't have any idea what's going on in that meeting once they start listening to songs. And, he had a funny story because Norbert used to play bass on a lot of records, and he played bass on a lot of Elvis records. And one of the things that he would do is, Elvis would always show up to the session really late. And that was his thing. He wouldn't show up till 10 o'clock at night. And the publisher would always, Elvis's publisher and producer were always there. So they would bring in a group of songs, and they would they usually have an acetate at the time, which was basically like a record that was cut of the song. And they'd put it on a turntable, and they'd hand Elvis the lyrics, and they'd start the acetate, the song. It would be a demo, and it would sound almost like Elvis's band playing. And the singer would come in, and he'd start singing like Elvis, and Elvis would listen to it, and he'd try to start singing along with it. And then he would get just a few bars into it. He would just take the paper and rip it up and throw it away. And they'd take the record and they just throw it away. So they just never knew what was going to hit Presley the right way, because he was picking the songs. And sometimes he would land on one, and he'd go, play it again. They'd play it again. He'd go, play it again, play it again. And by that third time, Presley actually had the song down where he could actually walk in, and if they had the chart written, they could cut it in one take. So it's real important that you just get them that one song and just leave it alone after that, because all these guys, they just have a certain amount of time. It's based on time management, what they're doing, and they're trying to kind of bet their time against their success. So if you don't take up much of their time, but you do something that they may go, well, that was okay, you know. Well, if this guy gives us something again later on, you know, we'll give it a listen. You know, that's really the kind of the impression you want to leave, because let's face it, when you're pitching your songs, if you're an unknown, you're pitching to a known artist, you're up against songwriters that the producers and the artist know. Okay. So you're not even a designated hitter in the game. You're the guy that gets to go in if 2 guys in front of you get hurt. So just remember that, you know, what you're wanting to do with your songs is, and it doesn't mean your song's a bad song if it gets refused. It just means it's not the right time. But it also means that you've kind of cracked a door open there that you probably can go back through. So don't be discouraged, but own it before you play it.
It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of time, and it's a marathon, not a sprint.
I think, you know, and I tell people when you do this, don't be a songwriter, or don't be in the entertainment industry, or an entertainer, or a singer, or don't do any of that for the reasons of notoriety, success, and power, and all that kind of stuff. Do it at the core. Do it because you love it, and find a good reason to do it. Find a good reason. Say to yourself, and even if you have to lie to yourself on the front end, keep saying it to yourself till you believe it. I want to do something to make the world just a little bit better place with what I'm singing, or what I'm writing, or what I'm doing. Just keep saying that. And to me, that's one of the best reasons to do this anyway. You know, make the world just a little bit better place. And, you know, if you do, and it does get spread around, guess what? Your icing gets on the cake you already had. The cake was you did something that you loved, and it did something important. And not only that, the icing was you got paid for it.
Amen. Did you want to do another tune for us?
Sure, man.
You got anything you've been working on? I will tell you this. I was super impressed when I had you on Texas Music Radio Sundays at Goofy's. Man, this gentleman here is a phenomenal songwriter, a great picker, and a great representative of the Texas music scene. I really dig what you do, Randy.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate what you do, because you work your butt off, and you do it with passion. Just pretty much like you do everything in your life. There's something that drives you, that is passionate about it. And as long as you do that, no matter who looks down on it, the good Lord is always going to look right straight at you and go, Mark, you did good, my friend. You made me proud. So it's you're doing it. like I said before, if you do something for the right reasons, you can't go wrong. Okay. So, well, I've got songs that, it's funny because I talked to a guy that I wrote a bunch of songs with years and years ago. And I've been working on some of those actually, thinking about this whole Texas radio thing and how these songs that I recorded so long ago, they actually fit the format of what's going on now. And I'm not going to say, well, I was ahead of my time or something like that. But I will say that for me, what I was doing didn't quite fit on Music Row. And moving back to Texas was the best thing I ever did, not only for myself personally, but for my music, because what I do musically fits here so much better than it did anywhere else. And I don't just mean Nashville. I just mean anywhere else. And I think it's because I feel at home and I feel comfortable. And I think that's a good lesson. It's good to do something exciting and kind of get outside your skin when you're doing this. But at the end of the day, if you can feel comfortable with doing something, then that means being comfortable also goes with being confident. Confident means you're in charge of what you're doing. So I feel like I'm kind of comfortable, confident, and in charge. So, but these songs that I wrote years ago, like I said, they seem to be getting more relevant nowadays, especially in my mind. I don't know why. Heck, maybe I'm just too lazy to come up with a new song every now and then. But let me play you this one song that I put on this Lukenbach record, and it's a song that a friend of mine and I wrote. He lives in California now, and he was my publisher at one point, but we were also co-writers, and we sat down and we started talking. And this wasn't completely first person, but this was completely an observation, which a lot of times great songs are observations. We wrote this song about guys who get to a certain age and they've established themselves financially. They got it going. They got things going good, but they still kind of yearn to kind of have that edge and be that young, hep cat, the guy who's, got the edge and he's, all this kind of stuff and everything. What brought it to mind was we were talking about a prominent record producer there in town he was actually 20 years older than we were. And now he had just went out and bought himself a Harley Davidson. We were like, what's he going to do with that, man? But more power to him is what I say. So we wrote this thing called James Dean Dream. Hey, who's that guy in the genuine leather jacket? With a wrinkle in his smile and a swagger in his giant step. He looks a lot like me, but it just can't be, 'cause he's a little too grown up. All but the mirror can't see what sets a man free is the truth he believes. Just like a rebel without a cause, I ain't breaking old sacred laws. Well, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Feels like I'm spinning out of control, fighting the wheel for my soul. Hey, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Spent most of my life living somewhere east of Eden. Cast out of the garden, tempted into the lion's den. I acted out every scene from a silver screen, as if it was reality. Oh, but it really ain't real until you reveal the hunger that you feel. Just like a rebel without a cause, I ain't breaking no sacred laws. Well, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Feels like I'm spinning out of control, fighting the wheel for my soul. Oh, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Now if I hadn't done all I had done, I would not know what I know now. But if I hadn't known all I know now, I wouldn't have done all I have done. Just like a rebel without a cause, I ain't breaking no sacred laws. Well, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Feels like I'm spinning out of control, fighting the wheel for my soul. Oh, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. Well, that's what it means, living a James Dean dream. I keep living a James Dean dream. James Dean dream, baby.
Yeah,
Thank you much. Thank you much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Hey, man, that's excellent. That's what I'm talking about right there, man. The songwriting skills are amazing, man. You know, it almost makes me wish that you were doing like a thing like this all the time. And if you ever want to collaborate and put a show together, regardless of what it is, and you need some help, man, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help you, man, and be part of it. And
I'm there.
It's always good to do that. And if you don't have something like that going on your video side of things, as an artist, it's super important. And I am just now getting to the point where I'm learning what I need to learn on that end of it, and trying to spread that message. And it's not going to go away. It doesn't go away.
No, it's what you love to do. So don't ever leave what you love. That's listen. I was told by a bankruptcy lawyer one time when I was filing bankruptcy years ago, financial disaster. I had, you have to bring in all of your property that you own or that you are, putting up for for whatever. So I had all these copyrights in my notebook, and he started looking through them, and he looks to me and he says, "Are you a songwriter, son?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And I thought, oh boy, here it goes. He's gonna give me a preaching sermon here. He thumbed through them, and then he closed the book, and he said, "Well, I want to tell you one thing. Don't ever give up on your dreams." I almost fell out of the chair. I mean,
yeah, that's awesome.
And that's what these are. These things that you come up with, that you write, that you perform, that you sing. These are your dreams, okay? And that's one thing that I always am try to be careful of when anybody plays me their songs or does something. I try to find something positive that they can either work off of, or I'll go, wow, I wish I'd have written that, because don't ever walk on other people's dreams. There's always a way to keep people driven and keep people passionate about what they're doing. And I will say this too. Here's another thing about songs, especially about old songs. And this is for you, my friend. If you got songs that you think that you've given up on, believe me, you haven't given up on any of them. They're just not ready for you to finish yet. So just remember that. Whatever you've got, don't think that anything you've done has been time wasted, because about a third of the things that I've been doing this last 2 years since I've been in Texas were things I gave up on, or I thought, well, that's about as good as that's going to get, or I really don't have anything that makes me feel like that's what it needs to do. Then all of a sudden, just some sort of landslide would just kind of hit me, and I just go, oh, wow, there it is. So you just kind of have to wait for that there it is thing, because it's like the weather. It's going to change. So anybody who's out there who's got songs, if you've written them, hang on to them. Don't throw them away. Put them somewhere. Remember them. If you can record a little bit of them, to refresh your memory on it, do it. I wrote a song, and if I have time, I'll play this for you too. I wrote a song when my mother was in hospice. She was in hospice for 7 days. She passed away after 7 days. And I was there all the time. And so I had my little computer with me to make notes with and everything. And I was sitting out in the hall one day, and this idea came to me about a song, or at least an idea for a song. And the idea was make it count, and I thought, compared to the universe and compared to all life that's ever been on Earth or that's ever existed, all of us are really just kind of little finger snap. We're only just like kind of one beat in the whole song. So, it's kind of important to try to make that beat count, make it count for something. So I wrote all this down and then I completely forgot it, and so fast forward to 12 years later. No, oh, wait a minute. Okay. This was in 2011. And then fast forward to 2018, I've got a recording session and I need one more song so I can make sure that I'm paying the band to stay there long enough to play it. And I start looking through titles and I went, oh my gosh. And I clicked on it and it went, and Mark, I heard the whole song. I looked at the lyrics and I said, I can hear the whole song.
There it was, that magic moment. Play it, man. Thing. Let's do it.
That's what it was. So this is Make It Count. It's unreleased, but I really love the song. It goes like this. From the beginning to the end, a million highs and lows will shine and fade away again. But when the music starts to play, all you can do is dance until the final chord is played. And life is just a finger snap, and you only get one chance. So don't miss out, don't live in doubt. Oh, make it count. The universe keeps expanding. They say someday we'll melt into a single understanding, and in the end your tears will flow like the cry of a newborn baby being born. And life is just a finger snap, and you only get one chance. So don't miss out, don't live in doubt. Oh, make it count. Make it count. And the time that you are given, you will never know. So make it count for love. Love will make it count for more. And don't live out, don't live in doubt. Oh, make it count. Oh, make it count. Oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, man.
That's one of my favorite unreleased songs that I have.
Dude, I'm digging it, man. Thank you for sharing that. I always like to do that. You got to be really careful when you're streaming about what you use, and that's why I use companies like Epidemic Sound, YouTube Studio, even in Canva's video processor and editor. There's royalty-free music that you can use. So there's sources that are out there for all of you that are listening that are just like, man, where are you finding your stuff at? Like I said, one of my favorite places to go is Epidemic Sound. They seem to have a pretty good variety, for at least for what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff in YouTube it's it's all right. Some of it's not good at all, and some of it's excellent.
Yeah.
And you're going to spend a lot of time. I didn't realize how much time you spend editing and finding your background music, making your transitions, your screen overlays. There's a lot to this.
Yeah. Well, if you
thumbnails.
listen to, and the thing about it is if you listen to a lot of the major things, half the time all they got is a drum beat and a bass with it or something. Sometimes it's just a drum beat, you
That's
know.
right. That's right.
So you don't
Well,
necessarily have to find something that has any sort of orchestral, meaning to it whatsoever. So
right. Well, I want to definitely wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you for being on this very special episode of Way Beyond the Music podcast. Not just because you're on it, Randy, but it's that time of year, man. And I didn't know if you had a family tradition that you guys do every year, maybe that, maybe not every family does, but that you'd like to share with everybody. And maybe a holiday wish as well before we check out.
well, we like to take Christmas Day completely off because I tell people all the time, well, that's what Jesus was doing on Christmas Day. He was tired after Christmas Eve, so he took the day off. So take a day of rest, reminisce, veg out, don't do anything. Make it, heck, turn all the noise off. Enjoy the silence. Go outside, whatever. Here in Texas, you can go outside a lot of times. And fix yourself something nice that you like. Be good to yourself. At least for one day, just completely be good to yourself. Don't worry, you're not indulging. You're basically helping everybody else because when you come out of that, you're going to feel better and you're going to make the world a little bit better place. So, be good to yourself. So, Merry Christmas to everyone. And my wife and I, we usually enjoy a round of Brandy Alexander's on Christmas Day. That's
Nice.
That's one of our favorite things.
My grandma, God rest her soul, on my dad's side, my dad's mom, she'd fly in from either, let's see, if it was wintertime, she would have been in Florida. She had a house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, then one down in Florida. And she'd fly in and make these amazing Christmas cookies. And one of the things she made was rum balls. And
All right.
As a kid, I remember the first time I ever tried one, I was like, oh, God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And then, as an adult, those are the things I'm talking about, your traditions, your things, maybe it's a certain dish or maybe you guys open an early or exchange a Christmas. I know we do ornaments.
Yeah.
After, Thanksgiving dinner, we do the ornaments for the Christmas thing. That's what we do then to kind of prepare for that season. But man, I'm all about letting the turkey have his day. And then, Christmas seems like it lasts for like 3 months nowadays.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I love this time of the year and what it really means. If you know where I'm coming from, but it's awesome to be able to do these things and try to help out. And I really appreciate you taking time and giving the pointers and your knowledge and your wisdom and sharing your music with us, because this is way beyond the music.
Right.
So I appreciate you giving us a little glimpse too into your family and personal life and holiday traditions, and look forward to having you on many more episodes and many more different things, the projects that I've got going on with the TV stations and the radio stuff and everything. And Lyric the cat here, who has snuck into the picture a couple times and who I've been petting, if you notice my arm over here.
Yeah.
She wanted to tell you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year too.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Great.
All right.
The future's bright.
It
Wear
is.
shades.
Hey, yeah, so bright. Real quick before we get out of here, look right there. That is Randy's store. I will post in the comments below.
Wonderful.
Links to all of his social media, the store, his website, also his YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe here and there. We want to be able to keep you up to date with all of the good things that we have going on. But look at that, man. And
let me say something. Say something real quick about distribution and how it relates to publishing. As another tip, real quick. I didn't want to let this one go.
Yeah, go for it, man. Yeah.
When you sign up for distribution for your record, if you've made a record and you sign up with one of the distribution peoples, DistroKid, TuneCore, CD Baby, whatever. Don't let them have your publishing administration and that kind of stuff. You go do it on your own. If they get involved, it's going to be a holy mess. Just let them distribute your record and get it on iTunes and all that kind of stuff. Let them do what they're good at. They're not good at that other stuff. Okay.
Amen.
So just remember that. Don't sign up for that. It may look easy. They might say, "Hey, this is the easy way to go because we'll handle it." They don't have the staff. Okay. So don't do that.
Yeah. Man, again, I can't thank you enough for your time. And I look forward to the next time that we get together and collaborate and do some fun stuff like this. Of course, let Jenny know to reach out to me and let me know when you want to be back at Goofy's. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
They had a blast. Everybody loved it and dug it. And next time you come, I'm going to try to get the owners to be there so you can meet them too as well.
Okay, great.
But hey, we're going to check out, and we will see you next week on Way Beyond the Music. Randy, tell everyone bye-bye.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year, and make it a good one.
That's about all we can do, my brother. That is all we can do, is make it a good one and do the best that we can do. Hey, we will catch y'all next time. I'm going to leave y'all off with Randy's store as we get on out of here. And don't forget, check down in the description after this gets posted on the YouTube channels. And you can find all of the contact information for Randy there. And we will see you next time. Y'all take care. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We're out.